There is a small ceramic pot sitting on a wooden shelf beside a kitchen window in Kyoto that has not been empty in 4 generations. The woman who tends it now is 71 years old. Her grandmother placed the first cutting in soil in that same spot sometime in the early 1950s, and the plant that grew from it has been dividing and spreading and producing leaves continuously ever since. It costs nothing to maintain beyond water and occasional fresh soil. It asks for indirect light and consistent moisture and gives back something that no skincare counter in any department store in any Western city has ever been able to honestly replicate at any price point. Her skin, at 71, after 7 decades of outdoor gardening and mountain weather, and the particular kind of aging that hard physical work accelerates in a face, looks the way women in Western countries spend hundreds of dollars every month trying to make their skin look, and largely failing. She does not use a serum. She does not have a 10-step routine. She does not subscribe to anything. She harvests 3 or 4 leaves from the pot on the kitchen shelf, crushes them between her fingers, and presses the juice against her face before she sleeps. She has done this since she was a teenager because her mother showed her how. The same way her mother's mother showed her. The same way it was shown to women in that region of Japan for longer than anyone in that family can trace. The plant has a name that most Western gardeners have never heard. Not because it is rare, not because it is difficult to grow, not because the knowledge of it was ever hidden or suppressed or locked inside a research institution waiting to be discovered. It was simply never translated into the economic language that Western markets understand, which is the language of patents and packaging and branded ingredients and shelf positioning and the quarterly earnings reports that determine which plants get promoted and which ones get quietly left behind in the gardens of countries whose knowledge the Western beauty industry historically borrowed from without credit and sold back at markup. The herb is iso, known in Japanese as perilla, known in Korean as kikeinip, known in Chinese traditional medicine as zisu, the purple herb, documented in medical texts going back more than 2,000 years, with specific reference to skin health, inflammation reduction, respiratory support, and the particular quality of cellular resilience that researchers now associate with the compounds rosmarinic acid, luteolin, and apigenin, all of which are present in concentrations in a single fresh shiso leaf that would require you to spend $40 on a serum to approximate, and would still not deliver the same bioavailable profile that a living leaf crushed between your fingers provides in 30 seconds for free. You have eaten shiso. If you have ever sat down to a plate of sashimi in a Japanese restaurant and noticed the large purple or green leaf arranged beneath the fish as a garnish, that was shiso. Most people in Western restaurants push it to the side of the plate without touching it, because they do not know what it is, and because nobody told them. The restaurant put it there as decoration. In Japan, it was never decoration. It was medicine on a plate, placed beside raw fish, specifically because its antimicrobial compounds inhibit the bacteria that make raw seafood dangerous. A piece of food safety knowledge so old and so practical that it became culinary tradition before anyone understood the microbiology behind it. That gap between what shiso actually is and what a Western diner assumes it is, a garnish, a piece of presentation, something green beneath the real food, is the entire story of why this plant never made it into Western gardens or Western skincare conversations or Western medicine, despite having a clinical research record that would embarrass most patented ingredients, currently commanding premium prices in pharmacy aisles. Walk into the Nishiki market in Kyoto on any morning of the week, and you will find fresh shiso leaves stacked in neat bundles beside ginger and yuzu and pickled vegetables. Grandmothers buy them the way Western women buy salad greens, in quantity, routinely, without any sense that they are purchasing something special, because in that context, they are not. They are purchasing Tuesday. The same leaves that go into lunch also go onto the skin before bed. The line between food and medicine in traditional Japanese practice was never as sharp as the Western industry needed it to be in order to sell you 3 separate products for 3 separate purposes. Now walk into any major pharmacy chain in an American city and ask someone at the skincare counter about shiso. The response you receive will tell you everything about where this conversation has been for the last 50 years. The ingredient exists in the research literature. It exists in the beauty markets of Japan and Korea, with decades of consumer history behind it. It exists in a handful of niche Western products, marketed at prices that reflect how exotic the industry needs it to sound in order to justify the margin. What it does not exist in is the common knowledge of Western women who grow herbs on their windowsills and tend kitchen gardens and spend money every month on skincare that is delivering a fraction of what a $4 seedling from a garden center would deliver if anyone had ever told them to buy one. The research record on shiso is not thin. It is not emerging or preliminary or the kind of early-stage science that requires qualification at every turn. Rosmarinic acid, one of the primary active compounds in shiso leaves, has been studied extensively for its anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and photoprotective properties. A study published in the journal Experimental Dermatology demonstrated that rosmarinic acid inhibits the enzymes that break down collagen in skin exposed to ultraviolet radiation, which is the mechanism behind sun-related aging, the single largest driver of visible skin deterioration in women over 40. The compound does not just neutralize free radicals on the skin's surface, the way a simple antioxidant does. It works at the enzymatic level, blocking the specific biological process that dismantles the structural protein your skin depends on for firmness and elasticity. Luteolin, the second major compound, has documented activity against inflammatory pathways in skin cells that are implicated in conditions ranging from rosacea to post-acne hyperpigmentation, to the chronic low-grade inflammation that dermatologists increasingly recognize as a primary driver of accelerated skin aging in modern populations. Chronic skin inflammation is not always visible as redness or irritation. It operates quietly beneath the surface, breaking down collagen, disrupting the skin barrier, and accelerating the cellular aging process in ways that accumulate over decades and eventually appear on the face as the kind of premature aging that no topical product applied after the damage is done can meaningfully reverse. Apigenin, the third compound, has been studied for its ability to promote skin cell turnover and inhibit the melanin overproduction that causes age spots and uneven skin tone. A paper published in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences in 2019 identified apigenin as having potential equal to or exceeding kojic acid, one of the most widely used skin-brightening ingredients in commercial skincare, in reducing hyperpigmentation in laboratory conditions. Kojic acid is a standard ingredient in products that retail between $30 and $80. Apigenin is sitting in the shiso leaf you just push to the side of your sashimi plate. The combination of these 3 compounds in a single plant is not a coincidence of chemistry. It is the reason traditional Japanese and Korean medicine identified shiso as a skin herb specifically, rather than simply a culinary one. Traditional knowledge systems do not always understand the molecular mechanism behind what they observe, but they are extraordinarily good at identifying which plants consistently produce which effects across generations of use. When grandmothers in Kyoto and Seoul and Hangzhou independently arrived at the same plant for the same skin purposes across centuries of separate practice, they were doing the same thing that researchers do with clinical trials, accumulating evidence across repeated observation until the pattern becomes undeniable. The West missed this because the West was not looking in those directions. Research funding in the American and European skincare industry followed the patent model. You cannot patent shiso. You can patent a specific extraction method, a particular encapsulation technology, a branded concentration ratio, but the plant itself and its fresh leaf, and the simple infused oil that any person with a pot and a window can make at home. None of that generates intellectual property. None of that builds a product line. None of that supports a subscription model or a retail ecosystem or the kind of recurring revenue that a publicly traded company needs to report to its shareholders every quarter. Shiso is a fast-growing annual in most climates and a short-lived perennial in warmer zones. It germinates reliably from seed in 10 to 14 days, reaches harvestable size in 6 to 8 weeks, and self-seeds so aggressively in garden beds that most experienced growers describe managing its spread as the primary challenge of cultivation, not encouraging growth, but moderating it. A single packet of seeds costs between $2 and $4 and contains enough seed to plant a kitchen garden that produces continuous harvests from spring through late autumn. In containers indoors, under a grow light, or on a bright windowsill, it grows year-round without interruption. It wants full sun to partial shade, consistent moisture without waterlogging, and moderately fertile soil. It does not require fertilizer if the potting mix is fresh. It does not require pest management because its volatile oils, the same compounds that make it medicinally active, make it largely unattractive to the insects that devastate other herbs. A shiso plant in a kitchen pot is, by the standards of container gardening, one of the least demanding plants you can grow, which is part of why it has been a fixture on Japanese kitchen shelves for centuries, and part of why it never attracted the attention of an industry that profits from complexity. The two varieties available to Western growers are green shiso, called Io shiso in Japanese, and red or purple shiso, called aka shiso. Both contain the active compounds. The red variety has higher concentrations of anthocyanins, the pigments that give it its color, and that carry their own documented antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activity. Japanese traditional practice favors the red variety for skin applications and the green variety for culinary use, though both are eaten and both are applied topically in different household traditions across different regions. Korean households use the green variety almost exclusively, and in quantities that would surprise most Western cooks. Entire leaves are wrapped around grilled meat the way a Western cook might use a lettuce wrap, and they are consumed daily as a vegetable rather than occasionally as a garnish. Fresh leaf applied directly to skin delivers its compounds through simple mechanical crushing. The cell walls of the leaf rupture easily between the fingers, releasing the oils and water-soluble compounds together in a juice that absorbs into skin within minutes. This is not a sophisticated application method. It is the most direct possible delivery of an active compound, from the living plant to the living skin with nothing in between. No extraction solvent, no preservative system, no emulsifier, no fragrance added to cover the smell of the original ingredient, no packaging, no supply chain, no retail margin. Part 2 continues with how to grow shiso at every skill level, the specific preparation methods Japanese women have used for generations, what the Western beauty industry did with shiso when it finally noticed it, and why the version sold in premium skincare products delivers a fraction of what the fresh leaf in your own pot provides. Growing shiso requires almost no skill and almost no space. A pot 8 inches across, filled with standard potting mix and placed on a bright windowsill, is enough to start. Press 2 or 3 seeds into the surface of moist soil, cover them lightly, and keep them consistently damp. Within 2 weeks, you will see the first paired leaves emerge, round and slightly wrinkled, smelling faintly of cinnamon and anise, and something green and alive that has no precise Western equivalent. By week 6, the plant is harvestable. By week 10, it is producing faster than a single person can use the leaves. By the following spring, if you let a single flower head go to seed, you will never need to buy another packet again. Japanese women who use shiso for skin preparation follow methods that vary by household and region, but share the same core logic. Fresh leaves crushed and pressed directly onto clean skin make a nightly treatment. Leaves steeped in warm water for 10 minutes, then cooled, are used as a morning rinse that tones and mildly exfoliates the surface. Leaves infused in jojoba or camellia oil for 3 weeks in a sealed jar on a warm shelf produce a facial oil that carries the full, lipid-soluble fraction of the plant's active compounds in a form that absorbs into skin slowly overnight. Leaves blended with raw honey into a weekly mask combine the antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties of both ingredients in a preparation that costs under $1 to produce and that outperforms masks retailing at $30 and $40 in independent consumer testing published in Korean beauty research journals in 2021. The Western beauty industry discovered shiso approximately 15 years ago. The response was entirely predictable. Several premium brands began featuring shiso extract in serums and eye creams, priced between $60 to $120. The ingredient was positioned as exotic, ancient, and newly discovered, all three of which served the marketing purpose and none of which was accurate. It was not exotic in the countries where it grew on kitchen windowsills. It was not newly discovered by anyone except the Western brands that had simply never looked at it before. And its power was not in the extracted, preserved, and packaged form those serums delivered. It was in the fresh leaf, the living plant, the version that no brand can sell you because it grows faster than it can be harvested and spreads itself freely into every pot you give it. The gap between what a premium shiso serum delivers and what a fresh leaf from your own plant delivers is the gap between a photograph of a meal and the meal itself. The extraction process that produces a standardized shiso ingredient for cosmetic formulation removes the volatile compounds that degrade fastest and are most biologically active. The preserved version that sits in a serum for 18 months on a bathroom shelf is a diminished record of what the living plant contains. The Japanese grandmother who crushes a fresh leaf between her fingers every evening before sleep is working with the complete compound profile. The woman who buys the $60 serum is working with what survives processing, preservation, and a year on a shelf. Put a pot of shiso on your windowsill this week. Water it when the soil surface dries. Harvest leaves from the outside of the plant inward, letting the center continue producing. Crush a leaf between your fingers before you sleep and press it against your skin. Do this for 30 days and then decide whether the serum was ever the point. The knowledge was never lost. It was growing in a ceramic pot on a wooden shelf in Kyoto the entire time, waiting for anyone willing to put down the serum and pick up a seed packet instead.